I was told by some trainers when I was in my late 40s and 50s that it just wasn't possible to get the body of my dreams because I'd left it too late. In other words, I was too old and going through a period in my life where it was going to be really difficult. Well, I'm here to tell you that I proved those people wrong and I'm going to show you how I did it. Hello fam and welcome to my channel. My name's Melissa Neal and this channel is all about helping you if you're a woman over 40 or like me over 50 get in fantastic shape. I really did get skinny at the age of 52 and I'm still slim now. I'm not stage skinny, I've got to be absolutely honest with you, but I haven't gone back to where I was before. I've actually lost weight and retained the shape that I'm in, and I've retained that for a number of years now, so it is absolutely possible. If you've watched some of my content before, you will know that I actually made quite a lot of mistakes before I got things right. I'm not going to talk about that, but I will link a video up here and down here actually explains all about that. But in the end, after sort of 2.5 years of failure, I did start to get things right. So I want to talk about the key things that are going to get you skinny, get you slim over the age of 40, over the age of 50, over the age of 60, and how I did it. Do watch until the end, until my last thing. I'm going to talk about 4 key things that you need to implement to get slim, to get skinny over the age of 40. The first thing is strength training. Doesn't matter whether you've got 10 pounds to lose or maybe you haven't got all that much weight to lose but you want to lose body fat. Doesn't matter if you're in that position or you've got 100 pounds to lose. Strength training is going to be the key to your success. The reason I did it is I actually like strength training. That was the first reason I did it. The second reason was I recognised I did do strength training before in my mid-30s and I found it to be quite successful. So I thought, oh, I'm going to try that. And prior to that, I was kind of doing tons of cardio and I switched to really primarily focusing on strength training as the main form of my exercise. And that's not to say that you don't do cardio, and I'm going to talk about that in a bit because I do get a bit misunderstood where people think that I'm against cardio. I'm not against cardio. What I'm against is too much cardio. But strength training is really going to be the foundation of everything. It's going to give you a much better shape despite going through the aging process. Even if you're getting a bit saggy, things are getting loose, what it's going to do, it's going to tighten things up, but it's also going to improve your metabolism. So your body's going to get better at burning fat through strength training, but it's not the time that you're actually doing strength training. So it's not the calories that you burn through strength training. It's what happens to your body. Your body, because it puts on more muscle, it's going to burn calories even when it's resting. That's what strength training does, and that's why it's so important. It's one of the few ways that you can actually improve your metabolism. You may not be able to do anything about your depleting hormones, but you can do something about your muscle, and that's what the beauty of it is. You can actually change your metabolism. It doesn't matter. Maybe you've got arthritis, maybe you've got joint issues. You don't have to always be thinking, oh, it's lifting a heavy barbell in a gym. It can be home workouts. You can do it at beginner level. You can use resistance bands. You can use home equipment. You can use dumbbells and body weight exercises. Body weight exercises are absolutely fantastic. Don't ignore strength training. Do it because it's really going to work in terms of getting you slim. And it always in the past, didn't it? It had that reputation where if you do strength training, you're going to get bigger and you're going to get bulky. Well, if you overeat and strength train, yes, you are going to get bigger. And bodybuilders do this deliberately in their off season. They actually eat in what's called a calorie surplus. So So they eat more than their body needs in order to gain weight. But you don't need to do that. What you need to do is combine this with eating in a calorie deficit. That's how I got slim, was strength training. Yes, I did do cardio, but I'm talking about the type of cardio. The type of cardio that really works when you're younger. You might have done something like running, loads of cycling, that kind of thing, for hours and hours. And you might have had that thing, and I had this when I was young, where it's like, oh, I can eat what I like. And I just do all this cardio. In my case, it was running. And my body just burns fat. I can drink wine, eat what I like, and remain relatively slim. That's what I did. That was my strategy, if you like. But as I got older, that just didn't work. So the way that I got slim was actually implemented something called high intensity interval training. And what's that? Well, that's when you do very intense bursts of activity for short periods of time. So it's like 30 seconds, for example, of intense, and then a minute of walking pace, but you do that in small amounts. Even when I was prepping for a show, I probably only did like half an hour of some of that high intensity interval training. You can't really do much more than that because it's actually quite hard. So for some of you, we're talking about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, that sort of thing. You don't need to do huge amounts of it to sort of get results. I was doing that anywhere between 2 and 5 times a week. The strength training, I put that in 4 times a week. For you, 3 times a week as a beginner, or 4 times a week as somebody that's been doing it a bit longer, that's optimum. I used to do 5 times a week. I don't do it anymore. I don't need to. And actually, your muscle develops when you're resting. So it's not a great idea to overtrain when it comes to strength training or high intensity interval training, because at this time in life, your body needs some rest. That's really, really important. One of the big things that I changed to get skinny, get slim in my early 50s was my nutrition. Nutrition is absolutely key, and yet nutrition is often the thing that we get really wrong. I talked about this thing when you're younger, you kind of do all this training, but you're just eating what you like and still seeing success. Actually, even younger people would do better to focus as much on their nutrition as their training, if not possibly more. And that's when you're going to see really good results. And the thing about it is, when I got older, it's actually much harder. Everything in terms of fat loss and getting in shape is much more difficult. So that's when nutrition becomes absolutely key, and actually starting to get really precise about nutrition. So I had a trainer years and years ago when I was in my mid-30s who said, what you want to do, Melissa, is you want to weigh out your food. And my eyes just glazed over, and I just thought, well, no, I'm not going to be doing that. And I didn't do that. I just kind of winged it a little bit. But as I got older, I converted, because when I started doing it, I noticed I was getting much better results, and I could see, even by tracking my calories and macros on something like MyFitnessPal or Chronometer, I can actually see what I'm eating, and it puts you in control. And then when you start to understand what you're eating and you see results from it, you actually feel really motivated about weighing and tracking your food. When you get an amazing body because you've weighed and tracked your food, you're not going to worry about the time it takes or whether it's a bit boring and that kind of thing, because you're seeing the changes. So that's what I would say to you. And I always talk about this pretty much in most videos, but it's about taking your protein high, maximizing your protein intake for more than the average person. So for women over 40, you're talking about a bodybuilder style diet, and that really works. And you know, it really worked for me when I converted over to increasing my protein intake to 1 gram of protein for every pound in your body weight, or if you weigh over 170 pounds, shoot for your goal body weight, and that's per day. For me, I'm 120 pounds. I need to be taking in at least 120 grams of protein. I actually go a lot higher. I like to push mine higher, so it's like 140, 50 sometimes. If I'm on prep for a show, show, it's like 160 grams of protein. So, you know, that is really going to help you with fat burning. It's really going to help with muscle building. And in fact, you probably can't build muscle unless you take the right nutrition in. Because, as I've said, when you get older, and this is what I found, when I got older, I just couldn't make the progress with the training alone. I had to do the nutrition to see the results. So then I'm going to talk about carbs. So yes, to get skinny, you can eat carbs. Isn't that great? And actually, I would say it's not a great idea to go down the road of a really low carb diet. And I didn't do that because it's really quite hard for women over 40 to build muscle without taking in enough carbohydrates, because carbohydrates actually give you the energy for strength training performance. It gives you strength. So you need carbohydrates, but yes, you need to limit carbohydrates. So you're not going to have a high carbohydrate diet. It's a moderate carbohydrate diet. It's going to depend on your weight and what your goals are. Some people respond better to higher carbs and some people respond to sort of lower carbs, but I'd never want anyone to take those carbohydrates below about 70 grams of carbohydrates per day, because then you're getting into the world of like very low carb diets, and with that you get rapid weight loss. And at the time, rapid weight loss seems great, doesn't it? Because, you know, you're getting rapid weight loss, but the problem with rapid weight loss is you actually lose muscle mass, and you can't afford to lose muscle mass, and that's going to make your metabolism worse. And you want to build your metabolism, because the way that I got slim was actually building my metabolism. You do want to be taking in fats, but you don't want trans fats. To get slim, I focus my fats on good fats: nuts, nut butters, oily fish, avocado, some limited amount of dairy fats, feta cheese, Greek yogurt, that kind of thing. You do need fats. The same with carbohydrates. If you go on an extremely low fat diet, that's not good for you. As a woman over 40, you probably want to be on a minimum of 40 grams of fat per day, probably higher, because you need the fats for your body. A lot of those good fats are really good for balancing your hormones, reducing inflammation. I promised you at the start that I was going to talk about the most important thing I did when it came to getting skinny, getting slim in my 50s, and that was changing and working on my mindset. And I believe it's 90% about mindset. So when you're talking about transforming your body, when you're talking about losing weight, you need to get in a different kind of mindset, because the current mindset is what got you to where you are today. So if you're not where you want to be physically, you need to change your mindset, and that's the most important thing out of everything. You can have all the strategies and all the information, but if you haven't got the right mindset, you're not going to succeed. What did I do? Wow, I worked on self-improvement, and I worked on kind of believing in myself. But the first thing to say is, what you have to do is make a commitment, and that commitment needs to be really serious. It needs to be like a marriage, like a job. It needs to be like running your business. It's that important. Your health and your body shape is that important. And it doesn't mean that you've got to spend hours and hours on it every day. It's about that level of commitment, and you've got to prioritize it. You've got to make it one of your main priorities in life. Amongst family is one of your main priorities, amongst your job, amongst your business. It's got to be up in the top 3 priorities if you're going to succeed. And then you've got to stop the blame game. That means taking responsibility for your actions. The people that I see that do really well at this, they take responsibility for their actions. They don't blame the size that they are on situations or people. They take responsibility. You've got to take responsibility for what you eat, how you work out. So people say to me, well, I haven't got time to do all that working working out. I found time between doing my main day job full time, having 3 children, and actually starting this YouTube channel and my fitness business as a side hustle. So I found time with a 2 to 3 hour commute every day. What it's about commitment. If you're really committed, you're going to find time. So you have to take responsibility. Nobody's force feeding you either. So if you're eating the wrong food, you've only got yourself to blame. The next thing, and I can't give you this, but I found self-belief. I was really determined anyway. What I decided is I was going to achieve it come hell or high water. It didn't matter. One way or another, I believed I could do it, and I believed in myself. And I believe in you because you've taken the trouble to watch this whole video right until the end. So that shows me that this is something you really want. So go off and get it. You're the only one that can make the change.